The antique grandfather clock in the lobby struck 3 as Willow Harper smoothed down her navy cardigan for the 5th time, wondering if she had made a terrible mistake coming here. She had responded to a simple job posting on a childcare website that mentioned nothing about estates with iron gates or driveways that seemed to stretch for half a mile. The building before her looked less like a home and more like something from an architectural magazine. All glass and steel and impossible angles that caught the afternoon sun. A woman in her 60s with silver hair pulled into a neat bun opened the door before Willow could knock. Her expression was pleasant but guarded, the look of someone who had learned to be careful about who entered this space. "Miss Harper, I'm Margaret, the house manager. Please come in." The interior was even more intimidating than the exterior. The foyer alone was larger than Willow's entire apartment, with marble floors that echoed her footsteps and abstract art pieces that probably cost more than her car. She followed Margaret through a series of rooms, each more pristine than the last, until they reached what appeared to be a library with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and leather furniture that looked both expensive and unused. "Mr. Yates will be with you shortly," Margaret said. "Can I get you anything? Water, coffee?" "Water would be great, thank you." Left alone, Willow took the opportunity to really look around. The books were organized by topic, and then alphabetically, she noticed. Business texts, classics, history, even a surprising number of children's books on one lower shelf. Family photos dotted a side table, and she found herself drawn to them. A little girl with dark curls and gap-toothed smile featured in most of them. In the earlier photos, a woman with kind eyes stood beside her, but those pictures stopped abruptly. The more recent ones showed just the girl, getting slightly older, her smile becoming more reserved. Those were taken before. The voice came from the doorway, deep and measured. Willow spun around, nearly knocking over a small sculpture on the table beside her. Nathan Yates was not what she expected. She had imagined someone older, perhaps softer around the edges. The man before her was probably in his early 30s, with dark hair that looked like he had run his hands through it too many times and sharp features that might have been handsome if they were not so severe. He wore a crisp white shirt with the sleeves rolled up and dark slacks, radiating the kind of presence that made the enormous room feel smaller. "Before," Willow managed, her hand still hovering near the sculpture she had almost destroyed. "Before my wife died." He said it matter-of-factly, like he was discussing the weather. 2 years ago, car accident, I'm so sorry." He waved off her sympathy with an impatient gesture. "Margaret mentioned you have experience with children aged 5 to 8. Willow nodded, grateful for the shift to professional territory. "Yes, I've been working in childcare for 6 years now. I have my early childhood education certification and CPR training. My last family moved to Singapore, which is why I'm looking for a new position. Sophia is 7. She's bright, well-behaved, and extremely lonely." He delivered this assessment of his daughter with the same clinical tone he might use to describe a business problem. "She needs someone who can be present, engaged, not someone who will park her in front of a screen all day." "That's not my style," Willow said, finding her footing. "I believe children need structure and creativity. Outdoor time, hands-on projects, conversation." For the first time, something shifted in his expression. Not quite approval, but perhaps less disapproval. "She gets home from school at 3:15. I need someone here when she arrives and through dinner, longer on days when I have evening meetings, which is most days. Margaret handles the household, so you would focus entirely on Sophia." "What about weekends?" "Negotiable. I try to be here on weekends, but that is not always possible." He picked up a folder from the desk and handed it to her. The salary and benefits are outlined here. If you are interested after reviewing them, you can start on Monday. I need someone immediately." Willow opened the folder and her eyes widened. The number on the page was nearly double what she had been making before. She tried to keep her expression neutral, but her mind was racing. With this salary, she could finally pay off her student loans. She could help her sister with her medical bills. She could stop eating ramen 3 nights a week. "This is very generous," she said carefully. "I pay for reliability and discretion. Sophia has been through enough. She does not need someone who will quit after 2 months or sell stories about our family to tabloids. I would never do that." He studied her with dark eyes that seemed to catalog everything. "Margaret ran your background check. Your references are excellent. Mrs. Chen particularly said you were the best nanny her children ever had." Willow smiled at the mention of the Chen family. "They were wonderful. I still get emails from the kids. Sophia will be home in 15 minutes. I would like you to meet her before you decide. This job is not just about credentials. It's about whether you fit." Before Willow could respond, Margaret appeared with water and what looked like a full dossier. "Miss Harper, I have the household schedule, emergency contacts, and Sophia's information here. Allergies, medical history, school details." "She has a tree nut allergy," Nathan said. "Severe. We have EpiPens in every room and you will need to know how to use them." "I've administered epinephrine before," Willow assured him. "I had a student with a similar allergy at my previous position." The sound of a car door closing echoed from outside. Nathan's posture changed subtly, his shoulders tightening. "That's her." A moment later the door opened and a small voice called out, "Margaret." "I'm home." "In the library, sweetheart," Margaret called back. The girl who appeared in the doorway had the same dark hair as her father, pulled into 2 braids that were starting to come loose. She wore a school uniform with grass stains on the knees and carried a backpack covered in rainbow patches. When she saw her father, her face lit up with obvious surprise. "Dad, you're home early. I wanted to introduce you to someone. This is Miss Harper. She might be spending time with you after school." Sophia's expression immediately became guarded. She looked at Willow with the wariness of a child who had learned to be careful about new people in her life. "Where's Amy?" "Amy took a job closer to her family, remember?" Nathan's voice softened slightly when addressing his daughter. "Miss Harper has experience with lots of children. She likes art projects." It was a guess, Willow realized, based on something in her file, but it was the right guess. "What kind of art projects?" Sophia asked, still cautious. Willow crouched down to be at eye level. "What kind do you like? I've done everything from painting to building fairy houses to making stop-motion animation videos." "Stop motion, like with clay, or with toys or drawings, whatever you want." "I had a student once who made an entire movie about her stuffed animals going on adventures." For the first time, genuine interest flickered across Sophia's face. "That sounds cool. Why don't you show Miss Harper your room?" Nathan suggested. "You can tell her about school." Sophia hesitated, then nodded. "Okay, come on." Willow followed the little girl up a sweeping staircase and down a hallway lined with more art. Sophia's room was a contrast to the rest of the house, filled with color and personality. Posters of animals covered one wall, a reading nook with pillows sat beneath a window, and toys were organized in clear bins along another wall. "This is amazing," Willow said honestly. "Did you pick out the decorations yourself?" "Most of them. Margaret helped." Sophia dropped her backpack on the floor and flopped onto her bed. "Are you going to quit like Amy?" The question was direct and painful. "I don't plan to," Willow said carefully. "I'm looking for a long-term position, somewhere I can really get to know the family." "Amy said that too." "Then she left after 4 months." Willow sat down on the edge of the bed. That must have been hard. It's okay if you don't trust me right away. Trust takes time. Sophia studied her with eyes that seemed too old for her face. You have kids? No, but I have a little sister I helped raise. She's 14 now and thinks she knows everything. Willow smiled at the thought of Emma. I also have 3 nephews who are pretty convinced I'm the coolest person alive because I let them have dessert before dinner sometimes. Dad never lets me have dessert before dinner. Well, your dad is probably smarter than I am in that department. A small smile tugged at Sophia's lips. He works a lot. Margaret says he's important, that he runs a big company. What grade are you in? Second. My teacher is Mrs. Patterson. She's nice, but she gives too much homework. They talked for another 20 minutes, with Sophia gradually relaxing. She showed Willow her collection of stuffed animals, each with an elaborate backstory. She explained her current reading obsession with fantasy novels about dragons. She complained about a boy in her class who pulled her braids. When they came back downstairs, Nathan was on the phone in his office, visible through the glass walls. He was pacing, his free hand gesturing sharply as he spoke. Even from a distance, the intensity was palpable. He does that a lot, Sophia said, following Willow's gaze. He's always busy. Margaret appeared from the kitchen. What do you think, Sophia? Should Miss Harper join us? Sophia looked up at Willow, then nodded slowly. Yeah, she's okay. It was not exactly a ringing endorsement, but Willow would take it. I'd love to start on Monday if that works for everyone. Nathan emerged from his office, phone call apparently concluded. Monday at 2:30. Margaret will give you the security codes and your parking information. Sophia gets home at 3:15. I'll be here for your first day to help with the transition. They spent the next hour going over details. Medical information, school schedules, approved activities, emergency protocols. Margaret was thorough and efficient, clearly the backbone of the household. Nathan interjected occasionally with additional information, his manner professional but distant. As Willow prepared to leave, Sophia appeared with a drawing. I made this for you, so you remember to come back. The picture showed 2 stick figures, one tall and one small, holding hands beneath a rainbow. This is beautiful, Willow said, genuinely touched. I'll put it on my refrigerator. Promise you'll come back Monday. I promise. In the car on the drive home, Willow replayed the afternoon in her mind. The house was extraordinary, the salary was almost too good to be true, and Sophia was a sweet kid dealing with enormous loss. But Nathan Yates was an enigma. He spoke about his daughter with clinical precision, as if emotional distance was the only way he could function. And Margaret had been right when she mentioned he was important. Willow had looked him up on her phone before leaving the driveway. Nathan Yates was not just wealthy. He was a billionaire who had built a real estate empire from the ground up, known for his sharp business instincts and ruthless negotiations. The articles mentioned his wife's death briefly, always in the context of how he had thrown himself even harder into work afterward. There were photos of him at charity galas and business conferences, always in a suit, never smiling. Her phone rang as she pulled into her apartment complex. Her sister, Emma. How did the interview go? Are you going to be nannying for some rich family? You have no idea how rich, Willow said. I looked up my new boss. He's a billionaire, an actual billionaire. Emma shrieked loud enough that Willow had to hold the phone away from her ear. You're kidding. What's he like? Is he hot? He's grieving and emotionally unavailable and basically a workaholic. So he's hot. Willow laughed despite herself. I'm there for his daughter, not for him. She's 7 and she's been through a lot. That's what matters. Sure. But if you end up in some romantic comedy situation, I'm saying I called it. That's not how real life works. We'll see. Emma said in a sing-song voice. "Anyway, I'm proud of you. This sounds like an amazing opportunity." After they hung up, Willow sat in her car for a moment, looking at Sophia's drawing. She had taken this job because she needed the money and she genuinely loved working with children. The fact that her boss was attractive and tragic, and probably had walls built so high around his heart that no one could scale them, was irrelevant. She was there for Sophia. That was all. Monday arrived with unexpected speed. Willow dressed carefully in jeans and a comfortable sweater, practical shoes for chasing after an energetic 7-year-old. She had stopped at a craft store over the weekend, picking up supplies for potential projects, and the bags filled her trunk. The gate code worked, which felt like a small victory. Margaret greeted her at the door with a warm smile and a cup of coffee. "Nathan is in a meeting, but he'll be available when Sophia gets home. Let me show you around properly." The tour was extensive. Margaret pointed out where everything was kept, from first aid supplies to extra clothes to Sophia's favorite snacks. There was a playroom Willow had not seen before, filled with toys and books and art supplies. "Nathan wants her to have everything," Margaret said quietly as they stood in the playroom. "Sometimes I think he believes he can fix the loss with things, but what she needs most is time and attention." "Has he always been this focused on work?" Margaret paused, choosing her words carefully. "He was different before Catherine died. Not carefree exactly, Nathan has always been driven, but there was more balance." He laughed. "He took weekends off. He was present." She shook her head. "After the accident, it was like he could not bear to feel anything, so he just stopped." Work became everything because work does not hurt. Willow absorbed this, understanding a bit more about the man she had met. "And Sophia? She's resilient, but she's also 7. She misses her mother. She misses her father too, even though he's right here in the house. She needs someone who can fill some of those gaps, at least a little." The responsibility of it settled on Willow's shoulders, heavy but not unwelcome. This was why she did this work, for moments like these when she could make a real difference. Sophia arrived home with the same wariness from Friday, but it melted faster this time. Willow had set up a project in the kitchen, materials for making friendship bracelets spread across the counter. "I thought we could make some together," Willow suggested. "You could make one for a friend at school, or for Margaret, or anyone you want." "Can I make one for Dad?" "Of course." They worked side by side, Sophia's small fingers carefully threading beads onto elastic cord. She talked about her day, about the math test she thought she did well on, and the book her teacher was reading to the class. She was still reserved, still testing boundaries, but there were glimpses of the vibrant child underneath the caution. Nathan appeared in the doorway as they were finishing up, his suit jacket gone and his tie loosened. He looked tired, Willow thought, not just physically tired but bone-deep exhausted. "How was your day?" he asked Sophia. "Good, look, I made you a bracelet." She held up the creation, blue and silver beads in a careful pattern. "Miss Harper taught me." He took it from her, and for just a moment something shifted in his expression. Not quite a smile, but a softening. "Thank you, it's great." "You have to wear it," Sophia insisted. "I will." He slipped it onto his wrist, where it looked absurd against his expensive watch and crisp white shirt cuff. But he did not take it off. "We're going to make friendship bracelets for Sophia's whole class this week," Willow said. "She wants to give them out at school. That's a good project." Nathan pulled his phone from his pocket, glanced at it, then seemed to force himself to put it away. "What else did you do today?" Sophia launched into a recap of her afternoon, and Willow watched Nathan listen. He was trying, she realized. His attention kept wandering, his body language screaming that he wanted to be back in his office, but he was making an effort to be present. When Sophia ran upstairs to put her school things away, Nathan turned to Willow. "Thank you for the project." She seemed happy. "She's a great kid. Creative and thoughtful. She likes you." He said it like it surprised him. "She does not usually warm up to people this quickly." "I like her too. We're going to have a good time together." He nodded, started to leave, then turned back. "I know Margaret probably told you I work a lot. I'm trying to do better about being present, but my schedule is demanding. If Sophia needs anything at all, let me know immediately. I don't care if I'm in a meeting." "I will." Over the next few weeks, Willow settled into a routine. She arrived at 2:30 each day, touched base with Margaret, and was waiting when Sophia's car service dropped her off. They did homework together, worked on projects, played outside when the weather permitted. Slowly, Sophia's walls came down. She laughed more, asked more questions, initiated hugs. Nathan remained a distant presence. He emerged from his office when Sophia came home, spent 30 minutes or an hour with her, then disappeared back into work. On the days when he had evening meetings, Willow stayed until he returned, often not until 9 or 10 at night. He always looked exhausted when he came home, accepting updates on Sophia's day with distracted attention. But Willow noticed small things. The way his expression softened when Sophia showed him something she had made. The way he never took off the friendship bracelet, even when it clashed with his suits. The way he stood in the doorway sometimes, watching them play, with something almost like longing in his eyes. One afternoon in her third week, Willow was helping Sophia bake cookies when Nathan came into the kitchen earlier than usual. He had changed out of his suit into jeans and a casual shirt, and the transformation was startling. "Can I help?" he asked. Sophia's face lit up. "Really? You want to bake with us? I have an hour before my next call. Show me what to do." What followed was chaotic and messy and wonderful. Nathan had apparently never baked anything in his life, and his attempts at forming cookie dough into balls resulted in misshapen lumps that made Sophia giggle. Flour ended up on everyone, and at one point he accidentally used salt instead of sugar in a batch, resulting in cookies so terrible they all spit them out. And then it happened. Sophia said something about the terrible cookies looking like rocks, and Nathan laughed. It was rusty, like he had forgotten how, but it was genuine. A real, actual laugh. The sound seemed to startle him as much as it surprised Willow and Sophia. He stopped abruptly, his expression closing down again, but Sophia was already throwing her arms around him. "You laughed, Dad. You actually laughed." He hugged her back, and over her head his eyes met Willow's. There was something raw in that gaze, vulnerable and slightly terrified. Then he looked away. "I should get back to work," he said, extracting himself from Sophia's embrace. "But thank you for letting me help." After he left, Sophia turned to Willow with shining eyes. "He hasn't laughed in so long, not since Mom died. Margaret says he forgot how." "Maybe he's starting to remember," Willow said softly. That evening, after Sophia was in bed, Willow was gathering her things to leave when Nathan appeared in the kitchen where she was washing the last of the dishes. "You don't have to do that. Margaret handles the cleaning." "I don't mind. It's therapeutic." He leaned against the counter watching her. "Today was good. Sophia won't stop talking about how I made terrible cookies." "You did make terrible cookies." A ghost of a smile crossed his face. "Yeah, I did." He was quiet for a moment. "I haven't done anything like that with her in a long time. I forget how." Willow dried her hands on a towel. "It's not about doing it perfectly, it's just about being there." "Is that your professional opinion?" "It's my human opinion. Kids don't need perfect, they need present." He studied her with that intense gaze that made her feel seen in a way that was both uncomfortable and thrilling. "You're good with her. Better than good. She's different since you started. Lighter." She's a great kid dealing with something impossibly hard. She just needs support and consistency. And what about adults dealing with something impossibly hard? The question hung in the air between them. Willow knew she should say something professional, maintain boundaries, keep this relationship firmly in the employer-employee category. Instead, she said, I think they need the same things. Support and consistency, and probably cookies, even terrible ones. This time the smile was more than a ghost. It was brief and small but real. Thank you, Willow, for everything you're doing here. It was the first time he had used her first name. Something in her chest tightened at the sound of it in his deep voice. You're welcome, Nathan. The autumn progressed into early winter. Willow found herself thinking about the Yates family even when she was not working. She worried about Sophia's upcoming holiday concert, knowing it would be hard without her mother there. She wondered about Nathan, working himself to exhaustion in that glass office. She told herself it was professional concern, but she knew she was lying. The truth was that she was developing feelings for her boss, which was possibly the most cliché and inadvisable thing she could do. But it was hard not to when she saw the moments of vulnerability beneath his stern exterior. When he sat with Sophia and listened to her read, his full attention finally on his daughter. When he asked Willow questions about her day, seemingly genuinely interested in her life beyond this house. When their hands brushed accidentally, and he did not pull away immediately. Margaret noticed, of course. One afternoon, when Sophia was at a playdate and Nathan was on a business trip, Margaret invited Willow to have tea in the kitchen. You're good for this family, she said without preamble. Both of them. I'm just doing my job. We both know it's more than that. Margaret sipped her tea. I've watched Nathan shut down over the past 2 years. He loved Catherine deeply, and when she died, he lost himself. Work became his escape. Sophia got nannies and drivers and everything money could buy, but she was losing her father piece by piece. He's trying, Willow said. I've seen the effort he's making. Because of you. You've woken something up in him. I've heard him laugh twice now, twice in over 2 years. Both times when you were here. Willow felt her cheeks heat. That's about Sophia, not me. Is it? Margaret's knowing look made Willow squirm. I'm not trying to make you uncomfortable. I just want you to know that whatever is happening here, it's a good thing. This family needs more good things. That conversation haunted Willow over the next few days. She tried to be more careful, more professional, but Nathan was not making it easy. He started coming home earlier, spending more time with them. He joined their afternoon activities more often, building block towers with Sophia, helping with art projects, reading stories, and he talked to Willow. Real conversations about books and movies and what it was like growing up with a sister she helped raise. He told her about starting his company, about the risks he had taken, about the satisfaction of building something from nothing. He did not talk much about Catherine, but Willow could feel the grief just beneath the surface, still raw after all this time. The holiday concert arrived on a Friday evening in early December. Willow had not planned to attend, but Sophia asked her specifically to come. Please, she had begged. Dad will be there, but I want you there too. You help me practice my song every day. So Willow found herself in a crowded elementary school auditorium, sitting next to Nathan in uncomfortable plastic chairs. He wore a suit, because apparently he wore suits everywhere, but he had lost the tie somewhere along the way. Thank you for coming, he said quietly as they waited for the concert to start. It means a lot to her, to both of us. I wouldn't miss it. The lights dimmed and the children filed onto the stage in their festive outfits. Sophia saw them and waved enthusiastically, nearly hitting the kid next to her. Nathan waved back, and Willow saw the pride and pain mingled in his expression. Catherine loved these things. he said softly. She would cry at every concert, every recital. Happy tears, she always said. It was the most he had ever said about his wife. Willow reached over without thinking and squeezed his hand. He looked down at their joined hands, then turned his palm up, lacing his fingers through hers. They stayed like that through the entire concert, holding hands in a dark auditorium while second graders sang off key holiday songs. It should not have felt significant, but it did. It felt like something shifting, settling into place. Afterward, they took Sophia out for ice cream despite the cold weather. She chattered about the concert, about how she had not messed up the words, about how the boy next to her sang too loud. Nathan listened and asked questions and ate ice cream with the friendship bracelet still on his wrist. Looking at them together, father and daughter reconnecting over chocolate chip mint, Willow felt something dangerous bloom in her chest. This was more than a job now. These were people she cared about, people she was starting to love. That night, after Sophia was in bed, Nathan walked Willow to her car. It had become a routine, one that often involved them standing in the driveway talking for 20 minutes or more. "I have a business dinner on Saturday night," he said. "One of those charity things I can't get out of. I know it's the weekend, but would you be willing to stay with Sophia? Margaret has the night off, of course." He nodded, then seemed to be wrestling with something. "Would you want to go to the dinner, I mean, as my guest?" Willow's heart stuttered. "To a business dinner? I know it's outside your job description, and it would probably be boring, but I would appreciate the company. We could call it overtime." She knew she should say no. Attending formal events with her boss was crossing a line they had been carefully dancing around for weeks. But she found herself nodding. "Okay, yes. Yes." He looked almost surprised. "Yes, but I'll need to know the dress code. I'm assuming jeans and a sweater won't cut it. Formal, very formal. If you need, there's a personal shopper I use for gifts. I could have her help you find something." "That's not necessary. I have a dress." She did not, actually, but she would find one. Saturday arrived too quickly. Willow had spent an embarrassing amount of her first paycheck on a dress from a boutique, deep green and elegant without being too revealing. She did her makeup carefully, curled her hair, and stared at herself in the mirror trying to calm her racing heart. This was not a date. It was a work function. Nathan needed a companion for a business dinner, and she was convenient. That was all. Except when he saw her, the look on his face said otherwise. He stood in the foyer in a tuxedo that made him look like he had stepped out of a magazine, and his eyes widened as she came down the stairs. "You look beautiful," he said, and his voice had gone rough. "You clean up pretty well yourself." Sophia appeared from the living room, already in her pajamas even though it was only 6 o'clock. "Wow, Miss Harper, you look like a princess." "Thank you, sweetheart. Are you going to be okay with Mrs. Margaret tonight?" "She said we could watch movies and make popcorn. We'll be fine." Sophia looked between them with a knowing expression that was far too mature for 7. "You two look nice together." Nathan cleared his throat. "We should go. The car is waiting." The drive to the hotel was quiet, tension humming between them. Nathan kept glancing at her, then looking away. Finally, he said, "I should have mentioned earlier. People will probably assume you're my date. Business associates, reporters. I can introduce you as Sophia's nanny if you prefer, but it might be easier to just let them think what they want." "Easier for who?" "For me," he admitted. "I've been declining these invitations for 2 years. Everyone is going to be watching, speculating. If they think I'm finally moving on, they might leave me alone. So I'm a shield." He turned to look at her fully, his dark eyes intense in the dim car. "No, that came out wrong. I asked you because I wanted you there. Because I'm tired of doing everything alone. Because over the past 2 months, you've become the person I most want to talk to, And that terrifies me, her breath caught. Nathan, I know this is complicated. You work for me. There are power dynamics and professional boundaries and a dozen reasons this is a bad idea. But I can't stop thinking about you, and I think maybe you feel the same way. She should deny it. She should reinforce those boundaries he mentioned. Instead, she said, I do feel the same way, and you're right, it terrifies me too. He reached over and took her hand, the same way he had at the concert. Then let's be terrified together. For tonight, at least. The event was held in a hotel ballroom decorated with enough flowers and twinkling lights to stock a wedding. Women in designer gowns mingled with men in tuxedos. Champagne flowed freely, and the noise level was almost overwhelming. Nathan kept his hand on the small of Willow's back as they navigated the room, a gesture that felt both protective and possessive. People stared. She felt their eyes cataloging her, trying to figure out who she was and what she meant to Nathan Yates. He introduced her simply as Willow, offering no explanation, which seemed to make people even more curious. Nathan, I heard you were actually showing up tonight. A man with silver hair and a booming voice approached them, hand extended. It's been too long. Robert, good to see you. They shook hands with the careful assessment of business rivals. This is Willow Harper. Willow, Robert Chen runs Chen Industries. Chen, Willow's mind raced. Any relation to David and Lisa Chen? Robert's eyebrows rose. My son and daughter-in-law, how do you know them? I was their nanny for 3 years. Their children are wonderful. You're the famous Willow, they still talk about you. Lisa said you were the only reason they survived the twins' terrible twos. He looked at Nathan with new interest. Quite a catch you have here, Nathan. Best nanny in the city, according to my family. After Robert moved on, Nathan leaned close to her ear. I didn't know you worked for the Chens. You never asked for my client history beyond my last job. The Chens were before that. Robert Chen is notoriously hard to impress. If his family loved you, that's significant. He paused. Though I already knew you were exceptional. The evening progressed with dinner and speeches, and an auction for various charity causes. Nathan bid on and won a vacation package to a ski resort, mentioning that Sophia had been asking about learning to ski. People continued to approach them, and Willow noticed how Nathan became more relaxed as the night went on, his smiles coming more easily. During dessert, a woman with perfectly styled blonde hair stopped at their table. Nathan, darling, it's so good to see you out, and with such lovely company. Hello, Patricia. Nathan's voice had gone cool. How is Richard? Busy as always. We should have you over for dinner sometime, both of you. She looked at Willow with calculating eyes. I'm sorry, I don't think we've met, Willow Harper. Are you in real estate as well? No, I'm in childcare. Patricia's expression flickered with confusion, then something like disdain. How interesting. Well, enjoy your evening. She glided away, leaving awkwardness in her wake. I apologize for her, Nathan said quietly. Patricia thinks everyone should be measured by their net worth and social standing. I'm used to it. Rich people can be weird about nannies. We're either invisible or threatening. You could never be invisible. He said it with such conviction that her heart squeezed. Dance with me. The band had started playing and couples were moving toward the dance floor. Willow let him lead her into the crowd, his hand finding the curve of her waist, her palm resting on his shoulder. They moved together easily, naturally. I haven't danced in years, he admitted. Catherine loved it. We used to go dancing all the time before Sophia was born. You can talk about her, Willow said gently. I know she was important. I'm not threatened by her memory. He pulled her slightly closer. She was my first love. We met in college, got married young, built a life together. When she died, I thought that was it for me, that I would never feel anything again, never want to feel anything again. And now I'm dancing with someone who makes me want to try, who makes me remember what it felt like to be happy, who brought light back into my daughter's life and somehow into mine too. They swayed together, the world narrowing to just the two of them. Willow could feel his heart beating where her hand rested on his chest, could see the conflict and hope warring in his expression. "I'm falling for you," he said quietly. "I've been fighting it because it feels too soon, too complicated, but I'm tired of fighting. Nathan, I'm falling for you too, but we need to be careful. Think about Sophia, about what this means for my job. I have thought about it, constantly. I've gone through every scenario, every potential problem." He touched her cheek gently. "All I know is that you've become essential to us, both of us, and I don't want to lose you in any capacity." "You won't lose me," she promised. He leaned down, his lips barely brushing her temple. It was not quite a kiss, but it was intimate enough to make her shiver. Around them, she was aware of people watching, phones possibly capturing the moment. Tomorrow there might be gossip, speculation. But tonight she let herself have this. When they returned home, the house was quiet. Margaret had left a note saying Sophia was asleep and everything went smoothly. Nathan paid the babysitter who had stayed with Margaret, then turned to Willow. "Would you like some coffee? Tea? I'm not ready for the evening to end. Tea sounds good." They ended up in the kitchen, still in their formal wear, drinking chamomile tea and talking. He told her about the pressures of running his company, about the loneliness of being at the top. She told him about her dreams of someday opening a learning center for underprivileged children, combining child care with education and support. "Why haven't you?" he asked. "Money, mostly. That kind of venture requires capital I don't have. And experience running a business which I'm still learning." "What if you had the capital?" she laughed. "Are you offering to fund my dreams? What if I was?" The serious look on his face stopped her laughter. "Nathan, you can't just offer to finance my business ideas." "Why not?" "I invest in promising ventures all the time, and I believe in you. I've seen how you work with Sophia, how you think about child development and education. You would be brilliant at this." "That's not how this works." What works? I'm a venture capitalist. This is literally what I do." He set down his tea. "But we don't have to talk about it now. I just want you to know that your dreams matter. You've helped make Sophia's dreams come alive again. Let someone help with yours." It was too much, too fast. Willow felt overwhelmed by the intensity of him, by the way he looked at her like she held answers to questions he had been asking for years. "I should go," she said. "It's late." He walked her to the door again, but this time when they reached her car, he caught her hand. "Willow, thank you for tonight, for taking a chance on us. Us, me and Sophia, our messy, complicated situation. You could have walked away a dozen times, but you stayed." "I'm not going anywhere," she assured him. He lifted her hand to his lips and kissed her knuckles, a gesture that was both old-fashioned and devastating. "Good night, Willow." She drove home in a daze, her hand tingling where he had kissed it. Emma was waiting up, demanding details, and Willow found herself spilling the entire evening. The dancing, the conversation, the way he looked at her like she was something precious. "This is really happening," Emma said with wonder. "You're in love with a billionaire who's in love with you. This is actually your life." "It's not that simple. There are complications. Sophia needs stability, not her nanny dating her father. And what if it doesn't work out? Then I lose my job and they lose consistency." "Or what if it does work out?" Emma countered. "What if this is your happily ever after?" Willow wanted to believe that. But she had learned that life rarely worked out like fairy tales. Over the next few weeks, things shifted. Nathan asked her to stay for dinner more often, the three of them eating together like a family. He took Sundays off, something Margaret said he had not done in over a year, and they spent the days doing activities together. Museum trips, walks in the park, movie afternoons curled up on the enormous couch. They did not discuss what was happening between them, but it was there in every look, every accidental touch, every moment of shared laughter. Nathan was smiling more, his whole demeanor lighter, and Willow found herself counting the hours until she could see him again. The complications she worried about never materialized. Sophia seemed thrilled by the growing closeness between her father and Willow, often maneuvering them to sit together or hold hands. If she understood the implications, she gave no sign of concern. But as Christmas approached, Willow felt Nathan withdrawing slightly. He was quieter, more prone to staring into space. She finally confronted him one evening after Sophia was in bed. "Talk to me. What's going on?" He sighed, running his hands through his hair in the gesture she had come to recognize as stress. Christmas was Catherine's favorite holiday. She went all out with decorations, cookies, presents. Sophia was only 5 when Catherine died, but she remembers. "I don't know how to give her the Christmas her mother would have wanted." "You don't have to be Catherine," Willow said gently. "You just have to be present and trying. That's enough. What if it's not? Then we'll figure it out together. Let me help. We can make new traditions while honoring the old ones." He looked at her with such gratitude it made her chest ache. "What did I do to deserve you? You gave me a job when I needed one. And then you let me in, even when it was terrifying." He crossed the space between them and cupped her face in his hands. "I need to kiss you. I've been thinking about it for weeks, but I need you to tell me if that's okay, if this is what you want. I want this. I want you." The kiss was gentle at first, tentative, both of them learning each other. Then Nathan deepened it, pulling her closer, and Willow felt herself melt into him. It was everything she had imagined and more, heat and tenderness and promise. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Nathan rested his forehead against hers. "I love you. I know it's fast and maybe it's crazy, but I love you. I love you too." He kissed her again, then again, like he could not get enough. They ended up on the couch, tangled together, kissing like teenagers until they heard Sophia's bedroom door open upstairs. They sprang apart, trying to look casual as Sophia appeared at the top of the stairs. "Dad, I had a bad dream." "I'll be right there, sweetheart." He looked at Willow with regret. To be continued, always. Christmas preparations became a joint effort. They spent evenings stringing lights and decorating trees, baking cookies with Sophia's help, shopping for presents. Nathan was slowly learning to relax into joy again, to let himself feel happiness without guilt. On Christmas Eve, after Sophia was asleep and the presents were arranged under the tree, Nathan gave Willow a small wrapped box. "You didn't have to get me anything," she protested. "Open it." Inside was a delicate gold necklace with a small pendant. She looked closer and realized it was a custom design. 2 intertwined hearts, one larger and one smaller, with a third heart overlapping both. "The 3 of us," Nathan explained. "You're part of our family now, Willow. This is my way of asking you to make it official. Move in with us. Not as the nanny, but as my partner, as part of our lives completely." Tears sprang to Willow's eyes. "Nathan, I know it's fast. We've only been officially together for a few weeks, but I've never been more certain of anything. You belong here with us. Sophia adores you. I love you. Please say yes." "Yes. God, yes. I love you both so much." He fastened the necklace around her neck, then pulled her into a kiss that promised everything. A future, a family, a life built together. On Christmas morning, Sophia found them asleep on the couch, wrapped in each other's arms. She stood there for a moment, then ran to wake Margaret with the news that her dad and Miss Willow were sleeping like princes and princesses in movies. The next few months were an adjustment. Willow officially moved into the house. her title shifting from nanny to a more ambiguous role that was part partner, part parent figure. She still helped with Sophia after school, but now she also had breakfast with Nathan in the mornings and fell asleep in his arms at night. The media caught wind eventually, articles appearing about Nathan Yates dating his daughter's nanny. Some were kind, noting how happy he looked in recent photos. Others were less charitable, making assumptions and casting judgment. "I'm sorry," Nathan said one morning after a particularly nasty article appeared. "I should have anticipated this." "I don't care what they say," Willow assured him. "I know what we have is real." Sophia, for her part, adjusted beautifully. She started calling Willow by her first name instead of Miss Harper and began making drawings of their family of 3. One night at dinner, she said casually, "Emma asked if you're going to be her mom now." Willow nearly choked on her water. "What did you tell her?" I said I hoped so. "Is that okay?" Nathan reached across the table and took Willow's hand. "That's more than okay, sweetheart. What do you think about Willow being part of our family permanently, like getting married?" Sophia's eyes went wide with excitement. "Really?" Willow looked at Nathan in shock. "Is that a proposal?" "It's a terrible proposal in front of a 7-year-old at the dinner table." He got up and moved to kneel beside her chair. "But yes, Willow Harper, will you marry me? Will you let me love you for the rest of my life? Will you be Sophia's mom and my wife and the center of our family?" "You don't have a ring," she said stupidly, tears streaming down her face. "I have 3 rings actually, because I couldn't decide which one you would like best. They're in my office." "I was going to plan something romantic, but apparently my daughter forced my hand." He smiled, and it was the smile she had worked so hard to bring back. "So what do you say?" "Yes. Yes, of course, yes." Sophia cheered and Margaret appeared from the kitchen, suspiciously tear-eyed herself. Nathan pulled Willow into a kiss while Sophia danced around them and Margaret dabbed at her eyes with a dish towel. That night, Nathan showed her the 3 rings he had bought. One was a classic solitaire, elegant and simple. One was vintage, inspired with delicate details. The third was a unique design with a center diamond flanked by smaller stones in a pattern that caught the light beautifully. "I love the third one," Willow said. "It's unexpected, like us." He slipped it on her finger and it fit perfectly. "I had Margaret steal one of your rings for sizing." "Conspiracies in my own home." "Our home," he corrected. "Forever." They married in the spring in the garden behind the house. It was a small ceremony with close friends and family. Sophia served as flower girl in a dress she picked out herself, scattering petals with serious concentration. Emma was maid of honor, crying through the entire ceremony. Margaret openly wept. Nathan looked at Willow like she had hung the stars, and when they exchanged vows, his voice was steady and sure. "You brought me back to life," he said. "You taught me that it's okay to love again, to be happy again. You gave Sophia her light back and gave me mine. I promise to cherish you, support you, and love you with everything I have for as long as I live." Willow's own vows were barely intelligible through her tears. "I came here for a job and found a family, found a home, found the love of my life. You and Sophia are everything to me, and I promise to spend every day proving that. I love you, Nathan. I love our life. I love the family we're building." When the officiant pronounced them married, Nathan kissed her deeply, dipping her slightly while Sophia cheered and their guests applauded. The reception was joyful and warm, full of laughter and dancing. Robert Chen gave a speech about how his family's favorite nanny had clearly moved up in the world. Emma embarrassed Willow with stories from childhood. Margaret raised a glass to the family she had watched heal and rebuild. And Nathan smiled. He smiled constantly, unable to keep the joy from his face. Later, when the party had wound down and Sophia was asleep upstairs, Nathan and Willow stood in the garden under the stars. 2 years ago, I thought my life was over, Nathan said quietly. I thought I would never feel anything again except grief and emptiness. And then you walked through my door with your kind eyes and big heart, and everything changed. You were already changing, Willow said. You were ready to heal. I just helped. You did more than help. You saved me. Saved us. He pulled her close, swaying slightly to music only they could hear. I love you, Mrs. Yates. I love you too. In the years that followed, they built a life full of love and laughter. Nathan cut back on work, determined to be present for the important moments. Willow opened her learning center with Nathan's investment and support, creating a space that provided education and childcare for families who needed it. It became her passion project, and Nathan loved watching her pour her heart into it. They had a son 2 years after the wedding, a baby with Willow's curly hair and Nathan's dark eyes. Sophia was an enthusiastic big sister, constantly wanting to hold him and help. Then came twins 3 years later, 2 girls who kept everyone on their toes. The house that had once felt cold and empty became warm and chaotic, filled with children's laughter and art projects and the occasional disaster. Margaret stayed on, now more grandmother than house manager, spoiling all the children equally. Nathan never forgot what it felt like to lose everything, but he also never took for granted what he had gained. Every morning, he woke up next to the woman who had taught him to smile again. Every evening, he came home to a house full of love. And sometimes, when Willow found him standing in the doorway watching their children play, she would see him wearing that original friendship bracelet, now faded and worn. A reminder of where they started, of the little girl who had needed a nanny and the broken man who had needed saving. "What are you thinking about?" she would ask, and he would pull her close and kiss her temple. "Just remembering how lucky I am, that you took a job not knowing what you were walking into, that you stayed even when it was hard, that you loved us when we needed it most." "I'm the lucky one," Willow would always reply. "I got a family I never expected and a love I never imagined possible." Their story had started with a job posting and an interview in a library. It had grown through friendship bracelets and terrible cookies and dancing at a charity gala. It had survived grief and fear and the vulnerability of opening up after loss. But most importantly, it had become a love story. The kind that proved it was never too late to smile again, to hope again, to build something beautiful from broken pieces. The kind where a nanny and a billionaire who had forgotten how to be happy found their way to each other and created a life better than either could have dreamed. Years later, when Sophia was grown and preparing for college, she would tell the story of how her father met her stepmother to anyone who would listen. About how Willow had come into their lives at exactly the right moment, bringing light into darkness and teaching them all that love could bloom even in the hardest seasons. "He hadn't smiled in 2 years, Sophia would say. Not once. And then Willow showed up and everything changed. She saved us, really. Reminded us we were still a family, that we could be happy again. She loved us back to life." And Nathan, overhearing this conversation, would find Willow and pull her into his arms, that smile she had worked so hard to bring back lighting up his face. "She did save us," he would agree. "Best decision I ever made was hiring her. Second best was convincing her to stay forever." "I was always going to stay," Willow would remind him. "You two had my heart from the beginning." They would kiss, still in love after all those years, while their children groaned good-naturedly about parents being embarrassing. And in that moment, surrounded by the family they had built together, Nathan would remember what it felt like to be truly happy. Not despite the pain he had experienced, but alongside it. Both parts of his story, the tragedy and the triumph, the loss and the love found. He had learned that hearts can break and heal, that it is possible to honor the past while embracing the future. That love, real love, does not replace what came before but adds to it, creating something new and precious. And it had all started with a woman who took a nanny job, not knowing her boss was a billionaire who had forgotten how to smile. A woman who saw past the walls he had built and loved him anyway. A woman who became his partner, his wife, the mother of his children, and the love of his life. Their happily ever after was not perfect. They had arguments and challenges and days when things were hard. But they faced it all together, with love and commitment and the deep knowledge that they were exactly where they belonged. In the end, that was all that mattered. They had found each other when they both needed it most. They had built a family on a foundation of love and trust. And they had proved that even the most broken hearts can learn to smile again, given time and the right person to show them the way.